Join us on the Swim Monkey.
Swim
Monkey
TV. On the Monkey.
Holding water, in the water we go. We talk about our future champions, swim techniques and Olympic strokes. Holding water, so much you will know about dolphin kicks, flip turns, dives, and how to find an awesome coach. Hosted by Bryan, Welter, and Kerns. Holding water is where competitive swimming is learned.
Hey, what's up out there, swimming world? We're excited to be here with you guys today for the third installment of Holding Water. Our show is completely dedicated to age group swimming. We have some awesome guests for you guys today. We're going to talk a lot about age group swimming and specifically development of the youngest and the base of our programs, the 10 and unders. So we're excited to welcome those guys today. Bryan, you want to talk a little bit about what's been going on the show so far?
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks we've had some great guests with Kate and with Rod Hansen, and then last week we had a great show with Nick and Mike. And I got to say, guys, if you haven't had a chance to go back and watch that show, I would, because I know Tyler, myself, were discussing how we were trying some of those drills and some of those things that those guys suggested, and so far I'm impressed. And I'm not much of a drills guy personally, so I would definitely say go back and check it out if you haven't seen it. You can see those on Florida Swim Network, so check those out. So, guys, today we've got two guys that specialize in coaching 10 and under athletes. I mean, they have pretty much made a career of it. Colin's relatively new. Colin Kennedy, he's from Cypress Fairbanks Swim Club Fleet, is what they call it. And he's I've been in Texas 3 years, and he has, I think, won either the 10 and under boys or 10 and under girls age group at tags pretty much every time I've been here, every meet I've been to. So he's doing a pretty amazing job with the 10 and unders over there at Fleet. And then we've got a guy who really doesn't even need to be an introduction. Mark Taliaferro, he's at Santa Clara Swim Club, and he has coached the Yellow Bells, which is his deal, man. And he has turned it into a powerhouse of a 10 and under program that is right, Mark, solely 10 and under based, right? I mean, the Yellow Bells are 10 and unders, or they have 11-year-olds?
No, it's 3 different levels of competitive 10 unders, and it's anywhere between 120 and 140 kids.
So today we're gonna talk a little bit about some things. We got some topics over here, or some topics that we're gonna run through. Basically, the first one we're gonna kind of talk about is what drills do you guys do? How do you approach your drills? Are your drills systematic through the season? Are your drills something you do reactionary to something maybe they're doing that week or that day? How especially on a 10 and under level. I know with me it's more reactionary as they get a little bit older, but on a 10 and under level, Mark, how do you set up your season, and what are you looking at for your drills, and what are you looking at as far as where you're trying to go and what you're trying to get out of it?
Yeah, so I don't do a lot of drills. I mean, I will do drills for every stroke. There are essentially 3 or 4 that we do for each different stroke. When we talk about butterfly, we do, people call them different names, inchworm or whatever. I just call it 4-kick breathe. We do 4 kicks and we breathe every 4th kick with the idea that we stay in rhythm. And from that, I build in maybe a single arm.
Without arms.
What's that?
With or without arms? Without
arms. Arms at your side. Just doing strictly dolphin kicking, 4 kicks, just working rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe, 1, 2, and making sure that you're not missing that beat at all on the breath. And once they can incorporate that, then we start to bring the arms in, and we'll do single arms. And, the one I like to do is single double. They'll go 1 right, 1 both, 1 left, 1 both, and they breathe only on the double arm. For our 10 and unders, breathing patterns are part of that as well. So we only breathe every other. And even though later on down the line, people can breathe whatever they want, it's kind of building in some discipline and just kind of maintaining rhythm. So Same thing for like backstroke. We'll do some roll drills. We'll do some single arm drills. We'll do, 6 kick switch, 10 kick switch. We'll do 10 kick up down switch where they're lifting up to 90 degrees and back down just so we can lead with the shoulder a little bit more. But fairly simple. Breaststroke, we essentially will do a kick drill where they're just kicking it with their hands out in front. They're lifting to breathe. They come up to breathe and then they kick and glide and hold their line, trying to maintain balance. We'll do flutter breast because I want to see them get up big, get their hands up quickly, and get their thumbs and elbows along the surface and keep a steady kick going so that they maintain body position. And then we do like a 1 pull 2 kick breast where we're just kind of focused on fewest number of cycles in each 25 that we do. I don't know, freestyle. Freestyle's fairly simple. Again, we'll do some simple kicking. We'll use a snorkel with our 10-unders, our older 10-unders, just kicking with rolling, keeping a head position set. We do a lot of single arm where they have to pause in the front because I want them to get used to the idea that they have to hold the front end and they can't just keep circling their arms around. So it's a little bit of control and some balance. And I'm a catch-up fan. I'm a big fan of that. Again, trying to set that front end and trying to get them to connect hand to hip. So that's kind of my deal. It's fairly simple.
Do you use sticks at all?
We have. We will use them at the lowest levels with the little guys. When you get to the higher level, like my group, we don't.
Hey, Bryan, explain what you mean by stick for anybody out there who might not kind of know that concept there.
It's basically just either a PVC piece this big or a wooden dowel or something that's big enough for them to grab hold of. And usually it's a thumb grab as they're doing it. It just kind of depends. But so back to you, Mark. What's the rationale behind having them do it when they're younger versus having them do them once they become more advanced?
Well, for us, it's about fundamentals. So I know that the question came is, are we doing this like as a prescription sort of thing to fix the problem? And it can be. If I go to a swim meet and I'm seeing things across the board that I don't like, if I'm seeing the foot, rhythm stopping in butterfly, or if I'm seeing head position or flatter shoulders and no rotation, and I'm not seeing them finish kicks, then maybe we'll do it that way. But for us, it's more about fundamentals and building a stroke. So we'll take the time to, take these 25s at a time or these 50s at a time to work through a progression. And each of our levels has that progression. How far you get through that progression depends basically on how well you do the drill. There's plenty of practices that I will write. We won't get through because I won't like something. And we'll have to keep doing it until it meets my standards. So it's kind of what we do.
That's good stuff. That's a lot to unpack there. Hey, Mark, real quick, I want to go back and kind of follow up on there. I know you mentioned some of the drills. Can you talk about maybe like one core thing that you look for in each of your strokes? And before you get started, coaches out there, if you guys are watching, throw comments into the page for drills that you like to do for each stroke. Tell us the stroke and tell us the drill that you like to do out there. But Mark, give us an idea.
And guys, you have to click on one of our faces and pull it up on the actual Florida Swim Network to make the comments show up where we can see them. If you comment on Facebook, we can't see if you connected through a link. So click on the actual stream and get that big black page up there so that we can see what's going on.
Yeah, Mark, what were we? Go ahead. Tenets. Give me one concept of each stroke that you really like that you want to master.
Yeah. So I've said this many, many times before. I don't think I'm going to do it per stroke. We essentially in the yellow belts only focus on 3 things. We focus on your head position, having it set. Obviously, if you're on your breast, that we want your eyes down and forward and focused on a point, unless you're breathing, so that we're minimizing all that neck and head movement or side to side movement. We focus on length or I guess body line and balance to make sure that you're not sagging in your hips, you're not too high with your head, but you're balanced in the water or you're balanced as you rotate. And then we're either focused on your distance per stroke. We have specific stroke counts for each of our 3 levels for all the strokes, or a foot speed. Like I said, when you talk about butterfly, it's about rhythm. When you talk about freestyle and backstroke, it's about that foot speed to maintain body position, and obviously distance per kick if you're talking about breaststroke.
That's good stuff. Hey, Colin, how you doing, bud?
Doing good.
Good. Hey, can you give us an idea of what kind of drills you guys do over there at Fleet?
Sure. So we like to run through progressions, meaning we'll start with one drill and add on to it through different steps. Maybe the easiest example is with backstroke. The drill I like to do the most for backstroke, we call fashion model, and it's just kicking on your back, rotating from side to side every 6 kicks. And then from there, we'll do like 6 kick switch. Then we call L drill with a 6 kick hold up to freestyle swim. And we'll stick with those drills, kind of like Mark said, until they're doing them as well as I hope they can. And I like to do that because you can work on a lot of different things just using the same drills. Our main priority in backstroke is kicking. That's probably what we try to do the most. And I joke with them. That's why I didn't like backstroke at all, because of how much it's necessary to kick. Breaststroke, the drill that I kind of like the best, we call IY clap. And that means they're going to add a pause when hands are in front and I, and when hands press out to the Y. We try to work a lot on keeping knees narrow when we're kicking. So sometimes we'll kick with a buoy to see if that helps, kicking with and without. Butterfly, real similar to Mark. We always start with body dolphin. That's what we call the 4 kicks in a breath. And our main goal is to make sure everything is like a cookie cutter. Every single movement looks the same as the one that came before it, and each one's connected to the next. We try to talk a lot about sneaky breathing when we do that drill. Just try to hide it into your body motion. There we'll start to add arms. A lot of times single arm first with off arm up and breathe to the side. And as they're getting better at kind of keeping rhythm and tempo when we're doing body dolphin, then we'll go off arm down, breathe forward. My favorite drill for fly is, we call it slow recovery. It's fly with a flutter kick. There's definitely no body motion. And we're working on kind of exaggerated timing for when you're going to breathe and when you're going to pull, and how you set your head back down before hands come around. That's probably my favorite. Freestyle catch-up's what I like the best, because like Mark said, we want them to be focused more on kicking and trying to learn how to kind of press the hand down, let the elbow rotate up when they're pulling. So we do a lot of, I think last week Nick called it directed swimming. I call it swim like drill. Well, we'll do 5 rounds of 450s freestyle. And in round 1, we're just focused on 6-beat kicking. And then in round 2, we're focused on just keeping head totally still. We'll remind them 6-beat kicking, but now we're adding head still. Next round, we add like a balanced rotation. So you've got your kick, you've got head still, you got a balanced rotation. Next round, enter in H, which is what we call like enter at your shoulders. And then last round, we call it min-max. Minimum stroke count, maximum speed. I like doing sets like that. I got kind of tired of doing a lot of drills, and it's like we did all this drilling, but I didn't see the improvement I wanted when we swam. So let's try to swim and do it while we swim, was the thinking behind that.
Hey, that's one of the things that I think Mike hit on last week when he talked about drills and being able to do the drills at a speed that's not just anybody can do it when it's easy and it's not as challenging, or when you've got fins on or something like that. But how often are you guys trying to do those drills that you mentioned with some more effort to them? I don't want to say on a tighter interval, because with 10 and unders, it's just hard to kind of lock down, I think, what we're looking at as far as intervals go. But how often do you guys do your drills with an effort base on them?
I would say kind of all the time. The phrase I say the most is drills require intensity. If you're trying to do fashion model freestyle, kicking with your arms at your side and rotating, you're going to have to kick hard to make sure that you're not lifting to breathe or moving hips and shoulders out of line. And I'm just not a big fan of like 10 kick switch drill with like a lazy roll. It's like, what are we learning to do there?
What about you guys, Mark?
Yeah, I think we use a lot of different kind of methods, and whether it's incorporating drills within the main set so that you have to kind of go back and forth between the faster, more intense swimming and then come back to the reminder of what we were doing that day or that week or in that particular practice in that set. We do a lot of stuff where we're going to just isolate it and only do 25s and do it slow to make it correct and slow down. But then, yeah, we have to throw it in and you know, spice it up a little bit. Sometimes we'll do some test set. Maybe we'll do a set of challenge 100s, and at the end of that challenge 100s, we'll come back and we'll, you know, 12, 16, 25s of a particular drill, just kind of patch that stroke back up, make sure we haven't lost that sort of feel for it. So we use a variety of different methods, but it's very similar to what Colin's talking about.
Yeah, we do the same kind of thing. I mean, I do a lot of what we call perfect strong swim, PSS, and it's basically just the idea of I'm going to mix in a drill. I mean, for example, we might go 16 25s. So we'll go the first one kick, the second one right arm, third one left arm, fourth one swim, or something like that. And the interval's pretty tight, so they have to work pretty hard on the drills to be able to make the interval. And the whole idea is they have to learn to do it the way they're supposed to be doing it. And then one of the big things that I talk about all the time is, you know, once I've taught you 2 + 2 = 4, I'm not going to teach you 2 + 2 = 4 every single day. Like once we've learned 2 + 2 = 4, now we're going to move on to subtraction and multiplication and division. We're not just going to keep going over the exact same things over and over again. So I don't know. That's just my thought. But
yeah,
Tyler,
that's good stuff, guys. That's
move
great
on
stuff.
here?
Yeah, I think that's great stuff, and I hope, you know, coaches, if you guys have other questions on drills and stuff like that, throw them in the comments, and we'll try to get back to those if we get any in there. I think everybody, you know, you guys mentioned all four of you, or both of you guys mentioned the 4 big strokes, but the 5th stroke, underwater dolphin kicks, has become a topic of conversation at pretty much every swim meet I see, where you watch this athlete that dives in and just destroys everyone underwater, and that kid's ability to handle the underwaters. I think there's something really important about teaching age group swimmers, from send-offs to breakouts and all of those skills. So what are you guys working on with regards to underwaters? Mark, I'll start with you. What are you guys working on with regards to underwaters at practice?
Well, I mean, obviously, over the course of my career, the underwater portion of swimming is evolved quite a lot. And, you know, back in the early 2000s, it was more like, okay, you're pretty good at this underwater thing. Let's try to work on with you. It was very, very much more individualized than what we're doing today. We're trying to work on body movements and you know, making sure that you're connected and making sure that you're kicking in both directions, figuring out, are you better on your back, your side, your stomach? And for us, it starts with how they leave the wall and just simple drop and push and getting into the best streamline and being consistent about it. Because if you can't do those things at 10 and under, it doesn't matter how well you kick. You know, if you're kicking like a truck, it doesn't matter. So we're trying to make you a race car. I'm probably the luckiest guy on any of your programs, because we actually have a guy that's here with us right now that swam for me. He was a national age group record holder. He's still a national age group record holder in the 10 under 400 meter freestyle. He went 4.36.22 as a 10-year-old, and you know, he was not a great kicker, and so we didn't spend a lot of time on it. And you know, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a chance to talk, and it was one of the things I think that he learned over the course of his career that was way more important, and it gives me some perspective. I get to get some good critique and some feedback to make myself a better coach. So I don't know if it's a good idea to bring Adam on now, but I think he might have some insight on this.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
Adam, welcome, man.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, what would you want to know from Adam?
So, I mean, you know, obviously I coached Adam from age 6 to age 13. I was lucky to be able to work with somebody that long, and you know, he had a lot of success, and he went on to swim for Scott Shea and then go to the University of California at Berkeley and swim 4 years there, and was an NC2A finalist, Olympic trials qualifier, and top 16 finalist. Looking back on what we did when you were 10 and I'm hoping you remember it fondly,
Sure.
and younger. I mean, to 6 to 13. What would you have liked to have done differently, looking back on it now?
Yeah. I mean, the underwater thing wasn't really a big idea back then. I know I was the kind of swimmer who just wanted to go fast all the time, and underwaters wasn't part of that formula. I was the guy who just pushed off the wall and just want to start pulling with my arms. And Mark, I remember you would tell me, all right, Adam, you have to push off and at least get under the wake. But I wish we put more emphasis on the underwaters. I'm trying to think, like the swimming getting so much faster and faster, and I think it's because the young ones are starting to do underwaters at that young age, and my generation was just starting to catch on. And I'm curious if there's another, like, what's the next leap out there, if there even is one, that we can keep improving on. I know it's kind of off topic, but
Yeah, I think that's something that coaches all around the world are trying to figure out, what that next thing that we can take advantage
Adam
of.
PD and breaststroke tempo.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's all kinds of evaluations that we make routinely as coaches. So I don't know the answer to it. I know that as soon as we figure out what it is, somebody's going to have to do a really good job teaching it to everybody else. So hopefully one of us figure it out soon, and we can bring it on the show one day and provide it to everybody. Hey, Adam, what was it like swimming for Mark?
it was great. We always had a good group of fast people, and I liked racing. I had my older brothers actually on the team. So I was chasing them down. I was always the younger one in the group. And swimming with Mark, he made it enjoyable. He's a fantastic coach, and that's why we still keep in touch and see how each other are doing. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work. I know we got a good cardio base with him. We never did any garbage yardage. It's always quality and focusing on the important things.
So Adam, if you had to say, this is more away from the pool, character development. If you had to say, there's, what did you get out of swimming that's allowed you to move on in life successfully, and how did Mark help you with those things, and your other coaches along the way, not just Mark? Obviously, you came up in a great program.
Mm-hmm.
What as an athlete's perspective, what were those things that you feel like have propelled you on to where it is you are today?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think discipline is probably the most important thing I learned. Just sticking to a schedule and staying with it and putting your full effort into things. I know with Mark, he really emphasized that, is working hard. I think that's part of my success at a young age was because I just was working hard starting at age 8, and so the success was there because of that. Also developing relationships, being good to your teammates, being good to your fellow rivals, going to be good friends with them one day maybe. And same thing happens in the school place. Just be nice to your colleagues in the workplace, be nice to them. I think Mark always emphasized, and my other coaches, just be a good person.
All right, now Adam, obviously you had some continued success, not only from when you were with Mark to finishing up your career. What would you say is something that you remember fondly from age group swimming that's probably something you've held? I know you said discipline as far as your character, but a memory, something fun that you had as an age grouper that you can take with you, and what was your favorite part of age group swimming that you remember at least?
Sure. So going to swim practice was like one big play date for me. It never felt like a chore or like, oh, I have to go to swimming. It was like, I got to go see my friends. I got to go hang out with them. And then swimming, the actual part was fun too, because there's the racing. But best memories, I think swimming is always a good time, because then that's even an extended play date with your friends. Far Westerns is always probably my best young swimming memory was those meets at Far Westerns. because that's where you get to finally put faces to names that you see just on results. It's a bigger range of swimmers, and then Western zones is even a bigger region. So just, I guess my favorite memory is meeting the people along the journey.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. And so one of our other topics was about the importance of long-term athlete development. Obviously, Mark did a good job setting Adam up, giving him an opportunity to take the next steps in his career and let him own it. So, Colin, been a while since we've been back over to you. Do you guys at Fleet follow any kind of model of long-term athlete development, or do you guys is it something that is authentic that you just do through the way you coach?
We talk a lot about trying to make sure each group will lead to the next. We know that the primary goals, at least on my side of the program, are prepare their strokes and teach them how to train so that when they go to that next group, they're able to take things to the next step, and whether they get more volume or more practice time overall, they're ready to handle things. But I think it's the constant contact that we have, like, what did y'all do today? What are you working on? Or even a couple of weeks after we do group moves, I like to ask, like, well, what do you think's missing? What do you think they're doing a really good job at? So that we can keep sort of evolving how we operate to make sure they're prepared. With the coaches that coach the groups below mine, especially during the summertime, it's great that we get to work with each other so much. So they're seeing every day what I'm doing with my groups, and then I'm getting to assist them with their groups, and we're kind of seeing how things sort of piece together. If we did a certain set or an amount, then we're starting to work on ways, well, how do we frame that for the group below ours so that they can learn a similar skill, but maybe without necessarily the same distances and things.
Mark, what about you guys?
You're on
He's
mute, buddy.
unmuted. Mark, you're muted, bud.
It's like the first time I've ever been on this. So for me, it's it's kind of processing all of the information I've gained over almost 30 years of coaching, and I'm thinking about Adam, and I swam with Adam's parents back in the 80s, and his parents were pretty good swimmers, and so when I came in to start coaching the kids, I can remember that there's 3 boys, and Adam was the youngest, but all 3 of them were on completely different timetables, but at the end of the game, all 3 of them were Division I athletes and NCAA qualifiers and Olympic trial qualifiers. And so I take that experience. I know one of the first interactions I ever had with Adam's mom was, she said, listen, I don't care what you do with the guys, work them as hard as you want, yell at them, scream at them, do what you need to do. Just don't compare them to each other. And so I start, you start processing that information, and you start realizing that if you can educate each family that all of the kids are different, even though you're operating in this system, and if you can coach to that, then you can teach them that, you can work on the fundamentals here. You may not get the fundamentals until you're 12. Some of you might get it at 8, but there's going to be a roadmap that we can create for you. And so that's really been my goal in coaching, is to make sure that no matter the size of the group, when I was coaching Adam's groups, those groups were maybe 15, 20 people. I've got groups of 40 people. It's very, very different interaction, but I still take the same approach to it. So, for me, it's just about making sure that at the younger ages, we're working with parents and educating parents. Their expectations are probably as hard to manage as most. Kids just want to go have fun. If they're getting external pressures from their parents, those are the things we need to be teaching to. I'm just very fortunate to have had a number of people. And now that I'm older, it's a whole lot easier to talk to parents. I'm the scary guy. When I was 25, I didn't know anything, and they didn't think I knew anything, and they weren't going to listen to anything. But I've raised a kid, and he's 25, and so it's a different perspective. But I think it still comes down to education and communication, and just keep learning from the things that you did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and keep talking to people, because you're going to learn every time you do.
And write those things down, because you'll forget them as an age group coach, I mean, the number of practices you go through, the number of kids that come through here. Bryan and I talk about this all the time, is going back and thinking back to things that we used to do when we were younger with other groups of kids. And I feel like all the time, I'm like, we used to do that all the time, but I forgot that that was something that worked really well for that group of kids, because maybe you got distracted with a separate group of kids trying to accomplish or work on a separate skill. Especially go back to underwaters. When you do something like really work on underwaters, that takes a lot of time, and that does take time away from something else. And you just got to be able to compartmentalize that. That's really important to the development of that athlete. For me, looking at long-term athlete development, we do try to look at the U.S. model. I do personally when talking to our coaches, and just kind of get an idea where our athletes are along the developmental chain, so that I know that they're ready. And then I think what Colin said, a lot of communication within your coaching staff to make sure that your senior coach lays out the expectations that he wants or she wants for their group once they move from, maybe if you're the head age group coach like myself, and they're going to leave my group and go directly into our senior group. I want to know the set of skills that our head coach wants, and I'm going to look at what he's doing at his practices. Bryan and I talked about this week. I want to look at his or her practices and get an idea for what they're doing, and kind of model some of the some of the things that we want them to see down the road. There's John Roy.
So on that note, I see John Roy chimed in right here with him, and I talked about this the other day. One of the big things that I've always tried to do wherever I've been is have an understanding of what it is the head coach is expecting from me, and then try to explain to the coaches below me what it is I'm expecting from them. And it's not trying to make everybody. I mean, one of the things I try to talk to the staff about is you have to create your own identity and you have to be yourself. But there are certain things that we need you to be able to accomplish as a coach to get these kids to do these things, and that's the focus, and that's what I find to be the fun part is how do you do this, and I'm going to go back a little bit to the underwater thing. One of the things that I changed when I was in Nashville was, and we talked a little bit about this with Mike, but is we started using the concept of push for depth with the age group kids and kick for distance, because I came to the realization that when they just push off the wall in a flat line and they have to kick down to get to the depth, to kick up to get to the distance, about right here they run out of air and they pop up like a cork. So if we push for the depth and then we kick as far as we can and we race that rise to the surface, is the way we talk about it. It's a different verbiage, and it changes what they're doing, and that's one of the things that I hope we're trying to constantly, as a Lakeside staff, work on coming up with creative ways to teach these things that are fundamental to what it is Jason and Steve and Tom want at the top of the program.
What's your favorite thing to do to work on underwaters?
We do a lot of, so actually dirty 30s. I stole them from John Moore, so I think stole them from Yoda. But anyways, basically what a dirty 30 is you sprint out. Theoretically, why it's a dirty 30 is you sprint out 15 meters, holding your breath, freestyle, you flip turn at 15 meters, and you have to generate kick speed all the way back to the wall underwater. So you don't get that wall. Obviously, 10-year-olds can't do dirty 30s. There's no way, I mean, you can put fins on them and they may be able to do like dirty 20s. I don't know, something like that. So you've got to play with the concept to figure out how far they can go. But the idea is to work on the breath holding, and I think the idea of generating that initial force from the kick rather than generating it from the wall, I think has helped us tremendously. I remember it was the 2 days before Christmas Eve when John told me about it, Morse, and I was like, okay, I'm rewriting workout. Like Mark's talking about, like I'm rewriting workout. I was in the car on the way to practice written. I'm like, last workout before the 5-day break, we're just going to do this. This is going to be something, and it has become part of our program. And I think it's become part of a lot of other programs because I think a bunch of you guys have stolen it, which is fine.
Yes.
I'll still do it better. I'll still do it better than you.
Steal everything.
Yeah. I know there was a question in there for Adam. Adam, what did you guys do in college for underwater work?
Yeah, so every Thursday afternoon was underwater work day, but I wasn't part of that group. I was in the long band group. But they did. I also did butterfly stroke group day, and so there's kind of some underwater elements mixed in. But the first thing we would do is to make sure we actually warm up our lower back, our lower half of the body, and we would just grab a kickboard and just be holding with our fingertips and put a snorkel down. So maintaining the neutral head position. And without moving your upper body at all, you just kick. And it doesn't have to be hard. You just are doing dolphin kick. And that's the way we warmed up our lower back to get going. And then as far as working underwater work, I know we really stressed the down kick, or I guess depending on if you're on your stomach, it's the up kick because most people are strong doing the other half of the kick. And so we would do one drill where you go light on your strong side, kicking down if you're on your stomach, and then kick really hard up. Because we wanted to emphasize that you need to be strong on both directions of the kick.
That's good stuff.
Megan Henley, I love it. The Nike swoosh.
Yeah. Hey, good question here from Mike. Mike's new to coaching. You guys see it there. He's focused on starts and turns. Kids are getting bored with that focus. Any suggestions? So I'm going to go around the table here. Bryan, I'm going to let you get started while our guests think of any suggestions they may have for a new 10 and under coach.
So I think when you're working on starts and turns, actually, and I'll draw Michael Brooks in here again and John Nelson. One of the things that I've worked on a lot over the last, since I guess maybe the age group summit, so last year and a half, is we just work on going off the blocks, and we kind of let them do invisible relay takeoffs. We do a thing where we go pitch to dive, which is something I stole from Jason at Texas A&M that he used to do with Caleb and those guys. We just try to do a lot of different styles of diving, and it's not necessarily teaching starts. It's learning how to get off of the block and get into the water. As far as turns go, I don't spend a ton of time on turns, so I'm really probably not the best person to answer that because my response is the standard old school coach of we work on turns every day. You do 300 of them every practice. How are you not working on them? So I'm guilty of being that guy. But when we do teach turns, we try to stay low. I like the intro video with the chair.
Yeah, that was
where
cool.
they have to stay underneath of that.
Hey, look at Bishop State getting on. That's a CMSA breaststroke turn video right there.
Is that what it was? Nice.
Yeah, that's how we work on staying low through an open turn. Put a chair that hangs over the edge.
Who wants to go next, Colin or Mark?
I'll go.
All right, go ahead, Colin.
Do relays. Definitely do relays. And you can do like the ghost turn relays or dirty 30 relays like we were talking about a minute ago. Or you could do relays from the middle. Anytime you can get them to race, then you're getting them to do the skill at a high speed and hopefully have fun. Sorry, my dog's freaking out because we're getting thunder and lightning from the hurricane.
It's all good, man.
One thing that we do for starts that they like a lot is starts from your butt. I don't know where I saw that or who I stole it from, but it's just a fun way to try to get them to work harder to explode out.
What does that mean?
Like you'd have both toes on the front of the block or both feet, toes curled on the front of the block, both hands, but your butt is sitting on the block. And then take your mark, go. And you have to explode up from that seated position and dive in. It's fun.
I like
Wow. All right. That's new. There's I learned something.
There you go.
that. Yep, writing it down.
Mark, what about you guys?
Well, let me start by saying that our 10 and unders in the pool that we swim in, we have no blocks. We have no tees on the wall. So our thing is when we get to go on Saturday to the International Swim Center, Saturday is dive day and everybody knows it. So it's kind of geared into our normal routine. But we've done things like no touch turns. You know, maybe if you're going 2-hand turns, you just don't touch the wall, and you have to learn how to react and use your hands and use your body to get your knees up and be a little bit stronger through your core. We do a dive progression where we start from just a simple streamline jump with all 10 toes forward to something similar to what Bryan was talking about with arms thumbs in the armpit. We go from a scarecrow position where they have to get their hands out, where all of their movement goes forward, but it's all about that entry position in line. And I think if you can come up with a good progression, you know, for 10 and unders in particular, 10 and unders love the routine of things. We repeat our warm-up set 2 weeks in a row. We do the same warm-up set because they all know what's coming, and then they can all react to it. And I think it's good for them because then you can start to work on those fine points, like I said, of are we streamlining off the wall? Are we doing the right number of dolphin kicks? Are we not breathing off the breakouts? So we like to build in a little bit of routine to it.
And I like that.
Real quick, I went back to sorry to interrupt, Adam, but going back to the turns thing, the one thing that I do that I got from Adam Schmidt when I was at LSU is doing the laying flat and working on tucking your knees in for the open turns and seeing how far you can spin without throwing your head back, but using the momentum of your knees to bring you into that rotation. And when you're on your stomach, having your palms down and working on that, generating the push here and getting your hands into the streamline as quickly as possible. We do work on those two specific principles. But all right, go ahead, Adam.
Sure. So in college, we would do, for warm-up, we would do underwater turns. So when you get to the flags, you would dip down underwater and then have to do your flip turn or open turn under the water. And that was always fun to do. It forces you to find the quickest way to get over because you have all the water resistance working against you below the surface. So that was in warm-up. We'd have to do that and warm down. And then another way we worked on turns was every Friday afternoon we do something called power, where Coach Durden would put us in heats depending on freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly. And you'd start off at 7 yards out, and he would blow his whistle or yell, and you'd have to just sprint to the wall and out. And so everyone's kind of the same swimming speed. So the difference maker is the turn. And so that's another way that we practice just being fast on the turns, fast on the walls.
Did you ever do that? Like if you were facing away, did you say you were facing away from the wall and then they send you and you turn to the wall and swim in?
We do that too. So yeah, he'd station us in different parts of the pool. And yeah, that's one where we'd be holding onto the wall or just outside it like a few inches, and then he'd blow the whistle.
Just so you got to turn your hips and get gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
And that's a fun way of doing it because you're racing your heat.
Yep.
Yeah, Adam, John Roy's going to want you to call those Tennessee turns.
He is
underwater turns.
Tennessee tumblers, I think, is the correct term.
Mm-hmm.
And John T would always call them Alabama turns. So, you're just going to have to do what you got to do.
Put a name on it all the time. One of the things I go back to what Mike said, like, go ahead, Bryan.
Would call them stupid.
Yeah. Going back to kind of what Mike said, I think the one thing that you consider, when you've got 10 and unders is that, you can build in smaller compartments of sets to do. I think what you guys are going to see in a few minutes when we get to the workouts that these guys have provided is that you can kind of break down the skills and the strokes and the components that you want to work in with 10 and unders into several segments. So maybe, you want to have 4 or 5 separate skills that you work on within that 60-minute or 75-minute practice that you can build in. And it doesn't have to be 15 minutes per, but you have the ability to break those down. I like to personally include a lot of the skills and drill stuff into the warm up. And like Mark said, we've had a pretty set warm up even with my group. my 11 and 12s and some of the 13-year-olds, we've had a pretty set warm up for the last couple weeks so that they can get familiar with it and try to do a really good job of attacking those. We finish every warm up with a 100, 275s, 350s, and 425s, where we're doing progressive underwater work. Just on the 100, we're kicking 3 times or 4 times off every wall, and then on the 75s, we're kicking 5. On the 50s, kicking 6, and on the 25s, we're kicking 7. And then we'll get out and follow that up, and we'll do something fast, short and fast off the blocks to just kind of, something speed work off the blocks. And like Bryan said, I am typically not a person who likes to just get in the middle of the pool and do a lot of turns. But I think with 10 and unders, I think that's okay. I don't think we have to coach those guys the same way we coach 13, 14s, and certainly seniors.
Hey, so quickly, Tyler, so you say you go 100 with 3, a 75 with 5, a 50 with 7, whatever. Do you at some point in the season switch that up, or random days do you switch that up, where you may go the 100 where you have to go 7, and then you go down to we want snappy fast turns on the 25, or snappy fast kicks on the 25s?
So we talked about the speed play, variable speed, sprint progression, whatever you want to call it. We talked about that last week. We actually put that into the end of the warm up, but also, we'll do a set of 24 25s where we have to do a progressive dolphin kick every 4 25s. But I want to say, with all of those, there's at least a cycle or 2 fast that have to be done on the breakout coming through. Because the last thing I want them to do is kick really hard underwater and then just stop before they do the breakout. So I really try to force them to go through a cycle of whatever stroke that they want to do. You pick the stroke, but you've got to go through a cycle or 2, depending on what kind of day it is. But yeah, Bryan, we invert it. Sometimes we'll go 4 25s where we go 6, 7, 8, 9 dolphins. If it's a hard where we're trying to push it, we'll go 6, 7, 8, 9 dolphins on the 25s. Then we'll do 275s where we go, 350s where we go 7, 8, 9 off of each 50. Then 275s where we go 1 at 8, 1 at 9, and then 1 100 where they got to do 9 dolphins and a cycle off of each. So yeah, we'll vary it up and try to make it something that they can replicate through warm up for 2 weeks, and then maybe we go to speed play or variable speed, whatever your vocabulary you want to call it is.
One set that I like that we try to repeat, and I got it from my friend Coach Kareem at First Colony. You just use your phone, go to I think it's random.org, and you can change how many integers and get random numbers. So I'll set it to get a number between 100 and 999. And if it's a 0, they have to do 10. And then we'll just get a random number and do 275s. You got to do those numbers. Okay, new numbers for the next 275s. And they love it. They love it when they get a 1. Because we're never like, hey, do 1 dolphin right here, just 1. We're always 5 to 8. Or they'll get an easy one where it's 4, 3, 2, and everybody celebrates, and then you got to throw in the 5, 8, and then the 0, and it's, oh my goodness, we got to do 10. That's just something that I try to do so that it's not always you have to build the number or something like that.
Hey, Adam, I know Colin said 1. That used to be probably what most 1,500 guys used to do, is that 1 show me dolphin and get up and start swimming. What was, real quick before we go into the next segment, how many times were you told to kick once you got to the top end level underwater off of a wall?
Dave Durden told me I always need to kick 6 kicks off the wall for backstroke and butterfly. He never set a rule on it for freestyle, but he always said 6 kicks for backstroke and butterfly. I just had to get under the wake, I think, for freestyle.
Gotcha. All right, so I think the next thing we want to go to is these workouts. So we've got workouts, I believe, the workouts in the chat, I believe, that you guys can go. This is the main set. Look at it flashing across the screen there. Mark, as the elder statesman here, age group coach, you want to go first? That's the most experience.
Wow,
that's what I mean.
Now.
He's calling you old. Don't let him
Yeah,
know.
I mean, and I
No,
had
that was respect.
to take some practices from February because we're not really in a normal environment right now. And I do want to say there was one thing when we were talking about long-term athlete development. I think that the one really good thing about this COVID-19 situation is it's forced our coaches, at least in Santa Clara, to be more collaborative and a little bit more creative. And I think that's at the end result, it's going to be healthy for us in communicating long-term athlete development and talking across all of our divisions in our program. So like I said, we start every day with a 200 warm-up, and it's basically get your brain set because, you got 75 minutes and we're just not going to stop. And I'm going to pretty much just talk really, really fast, and you're going to go a lot more. I'm probably not going to talk for more than a minute, and then we're going to get moving. I don't think practice is a lot of time for talking unless we're doing specific skill development. But when we're talking about a warm-up, again, we go a 50 kick on a 110, 425s right arm, left arm, only on 35 seconds, and then a 50 swim on the minute. All the kick we do, a lot of kicking in streamline on our back. Sometimes we'll do it right side, left side. We won't use kickboards in the warm-up generally. When we do our single arms, we'll go our opposite arm at our side. And again, it's for me, it's about promoting length. I think if you're able to get onto your side for those long axis strokes, it's helpful. I think that if you do we'll do a single arm breaststroke, and if they have their opposite arm out in front of them, just pulling with it. So I just remove that entirely and just make sure that they press outside the shoulder before they come in for the in sweep. And then the 50s, the 50 swim can be simple as maybe I just want you to do the right number of dolphin kicks and not break out. It could be a 50 swim all freestyle that week, and I could want you to descend them 1 to 4. It could be a stroke count swim. It could be a number of different things, and that's the way we kind of rotate through that. This is a butterfly day, and the reason I chose a butterfly day is I love butterfly. I love butterfly days, and I've got a lot of butterflyers. But again, when we do this stuff, we add in a lot of the kick because, again, all of this has basis in rhythm. If you don't have rhythm, there's all these misconceptions that butterfly is about being strong. I will submit that I've got some tiny, tiny little people. I've got a 10-year-old girl that's maybe 70 pounds that goes 103 and 100-yard fly. And it's all about her rhythm. It's all about her timing and how she pieces her stroke together. So we'll go 825s, dolphin kick on our back, and we'll go 450s. I already mentioned the 4-kick breathe. Where we're just setting up the rhythm, go back to kicking on our back, again, forcing the rhythm. And part of that going from their back to their stomach was what Adam was talking about, and making sure that we're emphasizing kicking evenly, that you're not stronger with your down kick versus an up kick, or that we're trying to get that to be as even as possible, and you're engaging your body. And then we'll go right arm, left arm stuff. So then we went into a main set.
Hey, so
yeah,
before you move on, so going back to the butterfly thing, don't you think that isn't it less based on size and pure strength and more based on strength to body weight ratio? Like that 70-pound girl probably was fairly developed in the shoulders, had balanced strength throughout that whole shoulder harness. I mean, don't you feel like that's also an important factor in being able to swim it? Because I feel like a lot of my kids that don't climb trees and jump fences, they can't do a pull-up. It doesn't matter how good the rhythm is.
No, I will easily admit that if you are a 10-year-old and you're a fast 10-year-old, you have a certain level of athleticism to you, right? So, I mean, we're not just talking about some 70-pound little stick figure. She's, I wouldn't say she's big in the shoulders or anything like that, but she's athletic, she's coordinated, and quite frankly, she's been swimming in my group since she was 6 years old. So she's had time to be going through this for a lengthy period of time, and her proficiency at the things that we do at this level are higher than somebody that joined my group 3 months ago. So then again, we went 9-100s, fly free, fly by 25. Again, it's just focused on rhythm. The freestyle is just distance per stroke and stroke count. And like for my group, my fastest 10 and under group, they need to go 19 strokes per 25 or 9.5 cycles, if you will, or less, so that they're hopefully focused on doing great streamlines, doing great underwater works, and then focusing on their length. And they have to slow down purposely, so they have to incorporate their legs into their freestyle stroke. And then at the end, we'll maybe do, and I'm reasonably sure we probably didn't even get to this that day. We maybe only did 8 of them. We'll put some fins on and try to get them to swim a little bit of fast stuff, butterfly, alternating a single double drill where they're just focused on their rhythm and keeping low in that breath, and then going some fast 25s fly.
Hey,
Yep.
Mark, on that, you put a fly day in there, and I actually wrote this down earlier when we were talking about one of the things you mentioned earlier is I guess posture, line, and balance, starting with the head position for you guys there. And before I ask this question, I want to let everybody out there know we're going to be probably about 5 minutes over. We're going to get to Colin's workout in just a second, but I want to ask Joe this. When you're teaching butterfly, especially with those young kids, Joe, Mark, what are you thinking as far as head position, where their head needs to be? Are you keeping it simple as head hits before the hand hits out front, or are you, how much are you talking about the lift of the chin, or keeping the neck in line?
Same idea.
Yeah. So again, I mentioned earlier that for all of the strokes that we do, our head position should be eyes down and slightly forward, right? The whole idea of maintaining a long neck and a long spine. And so when we do the breathing, obviously we want to stay low. I don't want to see your chest. We're going to try to kind of push the chin slightly forward, but maintaining the length of your spine, and then resetting the head so that we're minimizing that up and down neck movement. And it's kind of a push, but there's also a press a little bit with the chin and the chest as you pressing into it. And yes, I do want to see that their head is in the water before their hands enter. Nobody likes to
we talk about stretch the chin or the top of the head.
Right. Yeah,
I like
we're
it.
right there with you.
Coach Colin,
Yeah,
you got a workout for us?
sure do. This was actually a butterfly day also.
Hey, theme.
This is my favorite day from last week on Thursday. We're very fortunate that we've got our own pool here at Fleet. And the way that we're set up right now, we're in our 12th week of swimming. And I get an hour and 45 minutes with this group. So we start with 600, just a general loosen essentially, and let them pick things. And then we kind of get right into it, because I think the first kind of 30 minutes is the best time to do something that's important, because they might get a little brain dead or disinterested, as time goes on through the day. So we start right away with butterfly drilling, and we do 4 rounds of 350s. In the first round, slow recovery. Second round's right arm, left arm. Then we put fins on, because nobody likes fly with flutter, even though I really like what it does to their stroke. And then the last round, right, left with off arm down. So we just pick one thing to focus on essentially in each round. So all those notes are so that I know what to say. And then after we do that, we try to give them a minute or two in between rounds, and we explain, all right, we've just done slow recovery. You worked on your diamond pull. Now we're changing gears, still doing a diamond pull, but I got to see buns up and strong second kick doing this one arm. And we just try to build one step to the next. And after we do the drilling, I really love the alternate free and fly stuff when we do butterfly, because I'm just not willing to force them to do a lot of butterfly all in a row. And over time, we try to build up those 32 25s. Like in a normal non-pandemic year, we would try to get up to 64 probably with this group. Then we kick a lot. This just happened to be a flutter kick, trying to change speeds and stuff like that, and trying to make it fun towards the end, which is why we put fins on and did 450s kick in H. That's kick in prone position with arms up, and then sprint swimming instead of sprint kicking, and turned it into races, like Johnny went 16, come on, Michael, you got to try to go 15 and stuff like that. And they did a good job racing. And then at the end, just some IM stuff. One of the things that we work on a lot in terms of race strategy is descending effort. So teaching descending just by round and changing the interval halfway so that they could really try to hammer at the end. And it was pretty fun.
one of the things we talked about last week on our podcast when we're talking about single arm drill on butterfly. When you have them breathe on single arm butterfly, is that non-working hand, the idle arm, is it down by their side, or do you have it out front? And then where do you like to tell them to breathe?
Yeah,
So
they
we'll
breathe
do
forward, they breathe inside.
I like to breathe to the side first, because when we're doing it, it's usually after body dolphin or something like that. And I want to see hips high in the 2-kick rhythm. And then when we go off arm down, that's when I like to focus on breathing early, breathing low. We would say breathe with your eyebrows, or like imagine an old person is looking at you over their glasses. That's kind of what we tell them for how and when.
That's good stuff. All right, Bryan.
Very good stuff. Adam, what's your favorite drills? All the way through, or just give us a flyback of rest center free real quick. We only got a minute or two.
Yeah, butterfly. I really like a hip delay where my arms are at my side. I do 2 kicks, and then there's a third kick that tries to get my arms over. So I think that really teaches you to help use the kick to get your arms over, and then learning to also shrug your shoulders, because there's no other way to get your arms up unless you kind of give a shrug. Backstroke, I like just one arm up and then the other arm straight up, and you hold it for a bit while kicking, and you rotate really like a snappy rotation. And then breaststroke, actually, I like doing with both arms in front. You do 2 strokes, one arm, 2 right strokes, 2 left strokes of butterfly, into 2 strokes of breaststroke. So you incorporate single arm butterfly into the breaststroke. And then for freestyle, I like doing C drill, where you have one arm out in front of you and then one arm pausing up here, and then you hold it for a bit, and then you switch.
Arrow drill.
C drill for Cal.
Mm-hmm.
What about butthead, Adam?
Yeah. No, you like butthead. I don't do that anymore.
I haven't done butthead in years, buddy.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Well, guys, that's been great. Bryan, you got anything else you want to ask these guys before we sign off?
No, I think I'm good, man. Thank you guys for coming on, and appreciate all you guys for being here. And it's been great, man. Hopefully, I know I picked some stuff up. Hopefully everybody else did too. And we're going to keep this thing going. We've got some good guests lined up here moving forward. And I think we've got a couple weeks lined up. So hopefully we'll get some promotions out a little bit faster here, and everybody will have a chance to know what's going on, and tell your coaches and tell your friends and get them out here, because I feel like we're trying to make a difference. What do you got, Tyler?
Yeah, I was just Adam. Thanks for joining us for the athlete's perspective on all of this. I think that was great. Have that, and then Colin and Mark. Thank you guys. Wish you guys all the best in the next few weeks of practice, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. And I think next week we got a good group coming in. So look forward to seeing everybody then.
Thank you.
Join us on the Swim Monkey. Swim
Monkey.
Monkey TV. On the Monkey.